Well, welcome everybody to the Real Debate. I have great pleasure in welcoming Paul Hargreaves, the founder and CEO of Cotswold Fayre. You're very welcome, Paul.
It's nice to be here.
So a little bit about Paul, for those of you that don't know him. We've known each other, what, a couple of years, maybe 2 or 3 years?
Yeah, a bit longer, yeah.
And I've read a couple of your books, which we'll talk about later, Forces for Good, and the latest book, A Fourth Bottom Line. You are, without doubt, one of the few people I know that really does not just talk the talk, but walk the walk when it comes to putting the passion and heart back into business. And I mean that. So it's great to have you on. For the cynics that are watching and listening, it is possible to be financially successful in business and to invest ethically in staff, suppliers, customers, and community, and importantly, the planet. Paul was one of the founding fathers of BCorp in the UK, and Cotswold Fayre is BCorp certified and has been for how long?
2015 we certified, so 6 years. Yeah.
6 years. So you've been on an interesting journey. And I know that you spend a lot of your time trying to encourage other businesses to also take up the challenge of BCorp. And that, for those that don't know BCorp, companies like Ben & Jerry's, Patagonia, Cook, Innocent, and many other admirable brands and producers are now BCorp members. And it started in the States, didn't it? Back in...
Yeah, well, I couldn't give you the year, but I think 07 or 09, somewhere around then. But it only launched in the UK in 2015. We were one of the in the first cohort, if you like. It grew fairly. Number of companies grew fairly slowly for the first few years, but it's gone absolutely exponential in the last couple of years. So there's 650 now companies in the UK that are B Corps.
Wow, 650.
Yeah, we got 30 suppliers. We hit a landmark this week. Actually, we've got 30 suppliers that are now B Corps, and 2 years ago that was 6. So that gives you a indication. Certainly, and the food and drink sector is the biggest sector within UK B Corps.
So when I start these, we call them debates, but really not debates. It's more of a chat, you know. We're going to change the word real debate to something else, I think. But I always start with the question of, what do you do? What do you like doing to recharge your batteries? And, what do you find enjoyable?
Holidays, which have
not
been
working.
Few and far between in the last... No, I'm a great believer in. I have a very unset work pattern, so I will take time off during the day to have a game of tennis or go to the gym or stuff like that. So I work hard, as most business owners do, but I'm also quite flexible in my approach. And early on in the business, I realised the best way of growing the business was actually to go on holiday, which I better explain. But get other people to do what I was doing, and actually generally people love more responsibility and step up. And so when I came back, I said, well, actually you've done such a great job while I've been away, you can carry on doing that, and I'll do something else. So yeah.
Because you talk about, we'll come on to your books in a second, but you talk about in your book the difficult time when you went to the new warehouse and the new computer system. And it sounded like it was a pretty tough time for you.
It was, well, yes, it was an awful time. The only time I've probably lost sleep due to the business. And horrendous. I mean, nightmare scenario. We were probably within 3 or 4 weeks of losing everything, actually. Looking back now, it was one of the best things that happened to us, because on a personal level, I think too much of my identity was in what I was doing rather than who I was, which sounds a bit of a cliche when you put it like that, but it stripped away all that, because I thought, actually, I might not have this business anymore. So it strips you right back. And also as a company, we'd lost our way, if I'm honest with you. We started out very much with a purpose, as a business of giving people a chance in employment who didn't otherwise have it. And we'd fallen away from that. We'd grown, with, some would say, good reasons. We'd grown rapidly. The constant challenge of filling a bucket that has a hole in the bottom with people. What happened in that crisis was, it sorted me out and made me work out what I actually was wanting to do with my life. And it was soon after that we became a B Corp, actually. And secondly, as a company, it helped us start to think about what our purpose was. Nearly half the people in the business left after that massive meltdown, which again at the time was horrendous. But looking back on it now, actually, it was all the people that probably didn't really want to be there and certainly weren't aligned with what we wanted to do as being a purposeful company. So again, the good people stayed, and we recruited many more good people after that. So yeah, it was absolutely horrendous. But as I was just saying to someone the other day, actually, sometimes those crisis periods are the things that make us as people, and
make you stronger.
I've had 3 within a few years there. So got divorced, that happened, and then I had malaria soon after that, which was another made me realize I wasn't invincible, which is always a good thing. And those 2 years, 2 or 3 years now, looking back, were really helped me make me what I am today, which is still a work in progress, obviously. But yeah, so I would encourage anyone listening who's going through a difficult time, which many have, of course, and during COVID, that these difficult times sometimes can be the best thing for us long term, for us and our businesses.
Probably make you more humble as a person.
Yeah, and more vulnerable as well. I think my previous leadership was probably a bit lacking in vulnerability. I thought leaders were strong people who, didn't show their emotions and stayed strong, kept the ship sailing, which of course they do to some extent, but there's nothing wrong as a leader with not knowing all the answers and being human and being, if you're too other than the people you're leading, then they can't relate to you. You actually are a human as well. So if you behave like a human, people will trust you more and be more aligned with what you're trying to do.
Because your customers are entrusting you with their it's food brands mostly, isn't it?
We do a bit of non-food, but it's primarily food and drink brands. Yeah.
They're trusting you with, you are as much the guardians of their brands and making sure they get to the right places, whether that's farm shops, delis, other retailers. You're looking after their product and service on their behalf, aren't you?
Yeah, very much so. And we've never been very transactional in our relationships with customers and suppliers. We've very much wanted to work in partnership, and partnership equals relationship, and you can't have a very good relationship with someone if you don't trust them. So yeah, absolutely, trust is at the center of all we do. Really, should be at the center of all business activities, shouldn't it? Sadly, it isn't in some cases.
And would you not take on a brand if you didn't believe in their ethics or the way the product is produced? Perhaps would you say, no, we're not going to list that product?
Yes. So we have various criterion for selecting products, but we need to be able to work with them in partnership, and if we don't get on with them, that's a reason for not doing it. If their production if their production isn't aligned with the way we think things should be done the same. So yes, more and more those social environmental factors are coming into the decisions we make in listing products.
Now, I understand that you have an electric car. Well, you did last time I saw you. Have you still got an electric car?
Yes, I've got my Tesla. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, because you did have an Audi, didn't you?
That's a long story, but yes, the Audi went back. The Audi went back.
I was intrigued by that decision, you see.
I forced Audi to buy it back from me at what I paid for it, because it basically didn't work very well. So.
And have you run out of juice since you've had the Tesla?
No, that's a bit of I think that's what do they call it? Range anxiety, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think that's a bit of obviously it can happen, but there's a lot of stories put out into the media by the fossil fuel companies. The other one was, you're going to kill people because it's quiet. Well, if you listen to any electric car and a normal car on the road coming towards me in my village, which I've done, they make the same noise, because most of the noise in cars these days is tires on the road. So yeah. No, it's no, I'd recommend that to anyone.
Yeah. You love it, do you?
And they charge up really quickly. So I was in Harrogate beginning of the week, and I didn't have enough juice to get home. Stopped at a service station, and in 20 minutes it added 200 miles onto the range.
Yeah.
Which I'd only really got a coffee, gone to the loo, ready to go again. So that it's another kind of myth that you're going to take you a lot longer to get anywhere. Well, to be honest with you, if you're driving 4 hours, it's a healthy thing to do to stop after 2 hours anyway. Yeah.
I should say at this point, I'm also an electric car driver.
Yeah, I thought you were. Yeah.
Hence the question, you see.
But I will just add to that that great, these are the things to do, but I don't think just putting up wind turbines and just driving electric cars is actually going to change the world in the way we need to. We need to totally change the way we do things. So, for example, there's 6 of us that are close friends in the village. Each of us have got 2 cars on our driveway. We don't need 6 cars between 6 people, if I'm honest. And really, when we know things are really changing is when there's 2 cars and we're all sharing them, and that's the way we need to go. If every person has an electric car, the amount of lithium extraction in wherever they get it from, South America, I think, the devastation to biodiversity by all that extra mining will be, just as bad as pumping out loads of carbon into the atmosphere.
I was reading the other day that in Sweden, I think it's about 75% of people walk or cycle to work. Now, what an example that is.
The Scandinavians are quite good at a lot of things, actually, aren't they?
They are.
Possibly something to do with having more gender equality, some might suggest.
Quite possibly.
And it's all those Scandinavian countries are much more equal countries.
Sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to say there's lots of very good data that happiness as a nation comes from more equality.
Yeah, for sure.
And we are, and America and the UK are 2 of the most unequal countries in the world. And guess what? Yeah. Lots of crime, lots of children living in poverty. You think that rich people would be happier if they had more, but actually they're not. They are happier when society is more equal as a whole, which is an interesting one. Yeah,
I've spent half of my working life working for half of it was with the Finns, with the Finnish people, and the other half with the Swedes. And I think quite a lot of that has probably rubbed off on me.
Yeah.
One of the reasons why I have a fascination with trees and fiber and paper and paperboard and so on, I'm sure. So come on then, of all your achievements throughout your life, which one would you pick out as being the most significant, one you're most proud of, and why?
Well, apart from having children and a lovely wife. I'm assuming you don't mean those.
You're assuming that she's going to watch this.
She probably won't. So yes, assuming it's a business thing. To be honest with you, it's probably where I'm sitting now, which is our new food hall and restaurant in between Bristol and Bath. It's near the top of the list because it's fairly new. But B, it's been a really fulfilling project because we've more than doubled our team opening this place. And one thing I was slightly not apprehensive, it's probably too strong, but I was very keen that the great culture we have at Cotswold Fayre was pollinated into a brand new place, which is 70 miles away from our main office. And it's been absolutely fantastic to start something new with the putting in all the stuff I've learned over the last few years about people and planet. And it's gone stunningly well. My kids came in, one of whom lives in the States, came for lunch the other day, and it was interesting because they've never reacted this way to the other stuff I do. Going to our office isn't that exciting. Going to a warehouse, well, Dad, this is interesting. But coming here,
boxes of stuff.
It enabled them to see what I was about. They said, "Oh, everyone seems really happy here." So yes, it gave them a glimpse, and it's almost like this is the face of Cotswold Fayre because it's a consumer business. Cotswold Fayre is all B2B, so it's more easy to see the impact on the world in a consumer business, I think, than.
And it's connecting you directly to the public, which I think must keep you, with your finger on the pulse. I'm guessing. I've never been a retailer, but I have worked in retail. Yeah. So when you started Cotswold Fayre, how long ago?
99.
99. So what inspired you to set up Cotswold Fayre?
Well, I'd like to say it was all part of a cunning plan, but really it was a bit of an accident. I was doing charity work in Southeast London and run out of money basically, and started selling products from the Cotswolds, which is where the name came from, to delis in London. That's how the business started. That was actually before 99 in the 90s. And that was, it was my absolute main focus was the charity stuff, and this was just a bit of a sideline to make sure I could pay the mortgage and feed the kids. However, it did grow, and so in 99 we became a proper business and moved to Reading. Did someone else join me to run it? And as I hinted at before, the early mission, if you like, of the company was to give the kind of people a chance who I was running across in the charity work. It didn't have work generally, certainly didn't have employers that helped them with their life issues. So 3 of the first 5 people we employed as Cotswold Fayre were people who were probably other people would have said were unemployable. One guy just come out of prison, one was a drug addict, and one was a alcoholic. Wow. They weren't using, obviously, but they were people who needed help, a step up in life, and that's that kind of ethos really was right at the beginning of Cotswold Fayre. It's obviously something that's carried on through the last 22 years now. It is, which makes me feel very old. Yeah.
Wow, 25 years celebration not far away. So I mean, food production has become so mechanized and modernized and digitized. And we've kind of become disconnected from the natural world, it seems to me. How can people make better choices when selecting products and brands in the future, do you think?
Well, it's very difficult to dissociate this from the social issues that we have, because there's, for example, chicken. There's no way you should be able to buy chicken for £5. It's if you just think about it, it shouldn't be possible, should it? When involving everything that's involved in raising that chicken. And I mean, the chickens here, by the way, are £12, which is a more probably the right price. But most people in the UK, I said this last week actually at the food show, most people in the room, can afford the products in this room, but the vast majority of the population in the UK can't. So I think a lot of people would love to do things more sustainably, but there's such a pressure of money around, they will always take the cheapest option. So food is too cheap in this country. I don't know the stats, you might know better than me, but as a percentage of income, food is much lower now than it was in the 60s, which is wrong. Rent and mortgage payments are probably a lot higher than they were in the 60s, which is also wrong. So it's very difficult to connect the social issues and the macroeconomic issues with the food production. We should be paying more for food. It should be done in a better way. Obviously, that's one of the reasons we exist. But I would love it that everyone in the UK could buy the kind of products that we sell, but sadly, most of them can't.
Yeah, we do quite a lot of work with Iceland Foods, who obviously a discounter retailer. And they have a great ambitions to eradicate plastic, single-use plastic, to move to more sustainable alternatives, which would normally mean an increase in cost. They're still damn keen to do it. So interesting signs of the sort of change that we're seeing, but it will mean an adjustment in the cost of goods. There's no two ways about that.
But the thing is here that there's there's a research paper I read recently that how often do people make buying decisions on sustainability, or want to, and it's 68% of consumers. Businesses, if you ask them the same question, how often do your customers make decisions based on sustainability? They say, and this was 2,000 companies were surveyed, 34%. So consumers are wanting sustainability twice as much as the businesses they're buying things from think they are. So there's a massive disconnect there, and it's time that the business community caught up with their consumers.
But it's driven by profitability, shareholder pressures to see a profit returned every year or every quarter. There isn't a measure, generally speaking, across businesses of other factors such as impact on the planet and social impacts. Do you think, and there is lots of talk about ESG and the importance of these things, and certainly from financial investors are more likely to invest in a company that's much more invested in environmental, social governance than a company that's not.
Yes.
Do you see that as a continuing trend, given that we've got COP26 coming up, etc.?
Yeah, I think a lot's changed in the last 2 years, actually. I was just thinking this at this debate I was in the other day at a food show. We simply wouldn't have been having the discussion we were having then, kind of 3, 4, 5 years ago. So whilst probably my tendency is to get frustrated that things aren't happening quicker, I think sometimes it's good to stop and look back and think, actually, we have come quite a long way. Yeah, sure, we've got a hell of a long way to go. But just to give you an idea, we said at the beginning, we've been a BCorp since 2015. Fantastic thing. Love everything about it. Massively helped us as a company to redefine our purpose. In terms of commercial advantage, being a BCorp, None, absolutely none whatsoever,
Right.
until the last year, where we have had some quite big customers coming to us because of what we stand for. Now, that wasn't happening for the first 5 years as a BCorp, so things are changing. Yeah, maybe slowly, but they have changed. I think the change has been quicker since COVID than it was before.
What about the other way about? What about suppliers? Are they more likely to want to trade with you
Yes,
because
probably.
you're
Yeah,
BCorp?
yeah. Well, we have. I think we said at the beginning we have got 30 BCorp brands now that we're working with, or selling their products.
Mm.
So yes, yes, suppliers have always loved our ethos. So it's probably made more of a difference in the supplier world than it has in the customer world for a bit longer.
Now, I joined you at a conference probably 2 years ago now.
Yeah, it was May 2019. That was, yeah.
Was it pre-COVID? I talked about sustainable packaging and the relevance of removing things like single-use plastics and heavy carbon materials. Have you seen this trend that your suppliers are starting to change the way they pack things? Is that starting to bear fruit?
Yes, it has. It ended up being a very emotional day, didn't it? That actually, I remember it well.
A few tears.
Yeah, there were lots of tears, including mine. But one thing we did, if you remember, was get people to write pledges of what they were going to do on post-it notes, and we still got them in one of our meeting rooms, actually, stuck on the glass window between the offices. I was only looking at them the other day, and I know quite a lot of those things have happened now. I don't know who they didn't all put their company name on, but I know quite a lot has happened from the pledges people made that day. Yes, undoubtedly, and we're starting to force the issue more. We would probably approach it more in a kind of gently approach back then. Now we're starting to be slightly more forceful, if you like. So, give you an example, we are currently offsetting all the plastic in our supply chain. So not just, our pallet wrap is really the only plastic we generate, but all the plastic within the products we sell, we are offsetting this financial year, which is quite a lot of money, actually, let me tell you, more than we originally thought. But next year, we're saying to suppliers, okay, well, we've helped you out for year one. You're going to have to pay this.
You've got to put your hand in the pocket.
No, it's not actually that much per supplier, because added together, it's quite a big number for us. But yes, that's an example of us kind of leading the way and then passing the baton to them, because it's there. It will incentivize them to do more than they're doing.
And is it measured by weight or by number of units?
It's measured by the weight of plastic.
Yeah.
So we've got the data for all the outers and all the products for every single product in our range, it took someone about 2 months to get all that data. But yeah.
Wow.
4,000 products.
So so you will therefore know, relative to the weight of packaging total, you'll probably know what the plastic represents from
because we got it for each case, and obviously we know how many cases we sold each quarter. So yeah, and there are about 10 suppliers, A, because they've got a lot of plastic, and then B, we sell a lot of them, that are, if we can deal with those 10, that will make a significant difference.
And some of those products will be things like snacks. I'm guessing potato crisps, that I know only too well how difficult it is to pack crisps in something that's not plastic.
Yeah, well, the biggest, I won't say the brand, but the biggest contributor is a water company, actually.
Right.
Plastic bottles of water. So
interesting, and that's a tough one.
It is tough. Well, it is and it isn't. I mean, we also do water in cans and Tetra Paks. So that is partly our role to switch our customers to buying cans rather than bottles.
Encourage them to change. Which obviously for the big companies, that's obviously quite difficult to do. If you're a Coca-Cola or a PepsiCo, it's not easy to make those changes, of course.
No, well, they'll either have to make the changes or they'll be paying for the offset, so it's their choice.
Do you think we'll see a time when every company has to measure its carbon, and we'll have to pay a taxation against that measurement?
Well, I hope so. Yes, I mean, there's only so much that will happen with companies voluntarily making changes. There's gonna. I mean, I don't think legislation should be first. It should and it always does follow generally when the balance tips over. But we're currently I'm personally spending quite a bit of time on trying to get the Better Business Act through Parliament, which basically will change the Companies Act to make it a legal requirement for businesses to take account of the planet and people in their decisions, and not just profit, which is the way that act is worded at the moment. Everything is for shareholders, which is how we've got into this mess in the first place, to be honest with you.
Because within the rules of BCorp, you have to change your article of association.
Yeah. So
embedded in.
Yes. So this would in effect be kind of pushing that change out to all businesses in the UK.
Think it'll go through?
Not first time, no. But as pressure builds, then some movement will happen, I'm sure.
Fingers crossed.
I've had a letter from the business secretary, BEIS it's called now, Kwasi Kwarteng. He's given me 3 reasons why they can't do it. So it's all right. We'll keep chipping away. We'll get there in the end.
Chipping away. We'll get there in the end. Yeah. Well, with COP26 starting in a couple of weeks, and the increase, I've noticed that the increasing references to climate change are amounting. Daily. It's no longer what's the word? I'm trying to be polite. It's no longer conjecture. It's now becoming fact. No,
and yeah, there's a limit to how long you can be polite about these things. I mean, if the suffragettes had been polite, women wouldn't be voting, would they? No. Yeah. They had to chain themselves to railings, sit in the streets, put up posters, generally be annoying in order to make something right happen. Well, I would challenge myself, actually, first of all, but also other business leaders. How far are we prepared to go? If we do really believe in this stuff, maybe we should be out there with the Extinction Rebellion protesters.
And lying in the middle of the motorway, blocking traffic.
I don't know what the right thing is.
Rebellion, but...
No, it's not. So that's Insulate Britain. Which,
yeah. Very radical.
Putting our heads above the parapet in whatever form that takes. We're very good at talking. Sometimes, we may need to take actions which are self-sacrificial. I don't know what they are, but just throw that out there.
But I think you're right. I think particularly the British, we're very, very polite bunch, aren't we? And I think we've got to start being a bit more edgy. Certainly when I do, and privately I'm edgy, but publicly less so.
Well, yeah, I'm the same. It's in our heads we're thinking we might damage our brand, I suppose. But I don't know. I'm challenging myself at the moment in this area. So
moving on to your books, which are available audio and digital for download, and of course in physical form, real books. Forces for Good was your first one.
Yeah.
Which you wrote when? When did you
it was published in April 2019, I think. So I probably wrote it in 2018.
So what inspired you to write Forces for Good?
That was okay. So what inspired me to write that book was mainly from being, coming into the world of B Corp, sustainable businesses, it's quite a lot of people who work for me. It needed quite a lot of explaining to get what this thing was. So the motivation really was to write a book where we could explain what being a good company was, and make it accessible to normal businesses like, window cleaners, gardening companies, construction companies, run this kind of slightly highfalutin thing. A lot of the B Corps in the early days were consultancies for solar panels and things like that. So to know that any business can make the world a better place, and any business really should make the world a better place, because that gives people a lot more purpose for turning up to work on a Monday morning than just making sure the boss gets rich, which has never been a great motivation for coming to work, has it? So that was the main motivation, and it was, 3 basic chunks: bit about my background, and then how is a business good for people, how is a business good for the planet, and actually, if you do that, there's a good chance you'll make more profits anyway, which has certainly been true for us. But as I was writing that book, I got to what I thought was the end. I thought, I can't actually finish here, because it was the great realization, mainly looking at myself, that we can't really do this properly unless we undergo some personal change as well, unless we become more passionate, more humble, more vulnerable, some of the things we've talked about already. And I've called that the 4th bottom line, the first 3 being people, planet, and profit. I haven't got a P really for the 4th one, but you could call it personal change if you like. So it's a bit about that at the end of Forces for Good, and then I developed that theme in the 2nd book, which is called the 4th bottom line.
What do your children? How many children have you got?
I've got 4 actually, which probably isn't very sustainable, but it's a long time ago since I produced them.
What ages are they?
Well, they're all in their 20s now.
Have they read both books?
They've read the first one. I think a couple of them might have read the second one. I'm not sure.
You will read.
Well, you know what? I don't think that generation does a lot of reading. They're more listeners.
No, you need to turn them into a movie, and then they'll watch them.
Yes, to condense it down into 2 minutes. Yeah, it's just about the attention span. Yeah.
Absolutely. And do you plan more? I guess you will, but
the second one's only been out a few months, so that question's a bit like asking a woman who's just had a baby, "You're going to have any more children?" The pain at the moment is probably too great. But
recovering, are you?
yeah. I don't know. I am in Jersey next week for a couple of reasons. The second one is there's a group of other authors in a similar field to me, potentially. I think I'd probably like to do something more in collaboration with others if I do another book.
Okay.
So something might emerge out of that 2-day gathering next week. You never know.
Because you do a lot of speaking, don't you?
Well, not a lot in the last 18 months. It's kind of dried up a bit with COVID, but yes, I intend to. I do a fair amount. In fact, excitingly, only yesterday I've got invited to talk to a conference of head teachers. Which is
that sounds interesting.
Never done that before, but that is as a result of actually someone coming in and buying the 4th bottom line in this shop here. And he thinks, what I'm talking about actually, obviously it's about leadership. It's not about business, it's about leadership. And obviously head teachers are very influential leaders. So he's invited me to talk at a conference for them, which would be,
well, funnily enough,
I'm looking forward to that.
I'm interviewing the ex-head of a girls' grammar school.
Right.
Next Friday, funnily enough.
Okay.
She was head for how long, Hazel? 12 years, one of the top girls' grammar schools in the country in Chelmsford. And that's all about inspiring.
Chelmsford Girls' School, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's all about, the talk's going to be about inspiring young leaders and, you know, how to bring out their full potential.
Well, yeah, I mean, what a position of privilege being a head teacher, because, you know, there's so many lives you can influence, isn't there?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I do get involved with the school myself, and I'm going as they set up companies in small groups, and I go in as a dragon to you know, judge them and, you know, all that sort of good stuff. I love doing it, I really do. And some of the talent and ideas is extraordinary. Well, look, I've got one final question, which you know what it is. What are you reading right now, and what book has had the most influence on your life, and why?
I've read a lot of books, Ian.
I know
So
you
it's a
have.
difficult question. What I'm reading now is an easy one. I've just finished and actually reading again and making notes, because I read it when I was on holiday a couple of weeks ago. It's a book called Less is More by Jason Hickel. Don't tell me you've got it on your shelf. Yes, he has. Yes. Have you read it?
No, I haven't.
Honestly, this
is my pile to read.
Okay, so
Actually,
the origins of capitalism is the first main chapter. There might be an introduction before that, but if you read nothing else, read that. I used some of the content in that chapter at a session I did with a load of CEOs last week, actually, and it was they were blown away by it.
Ooh.
Because what we are taught about capitalism and the Industrial Revolution is basically, well, history is written by the winners and all that, but yeah, it's not true, basically. So, but yes, his whole principle is it's not just tackling climate change. It's we need to totally change everything.
It's political.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And so that's thoroughly recommend that. And I've just ordered he wrote a book before that, which I will read next. In terms of a book that's had most influence on me, there's a number I could say, but probably Long Walk to Freedom, Nelson Mandela's autobiography.
I have that somewhere.
What a man.
I have got that.
Yeah, I've read it years ago, and then I read that again a couple of years back. Big book. It's about 900 pages. Yeah,
you quote him.
I do quote him. There are some quotes from that book in my book. I mean, he just had leadership, so many qualities of leadership that we could all learn from. I think that's why it's one of my favorites.
Fantastic. Have you read Naomi Klein's This Changes Everything?
That is in a similar pile on my bookshelf to the one on yours.
I've just finished it.
Have you?
It's a beast of a book, but wow.
Yeah, it's on the floor in my office right now with 2 or 3 other books I haven't read yet. But yeah,
I think
it'll happen in the next few months.
Yeah, she's good. She's very bright, very well read. And that book I think it took her 3 or 4 years to write. I learned a lot from that. Anyway, Paul, thank you so much for your time. You are so inspiring what you do, and humble as well, which is good. And yeah, thanks.
Oh yeah, nice to be here. And yeah, as we both know, however good we are, there's always people better than us. There's always more to do. So hopefully some of this podcast and your other podcasts will inspire more people to rise up, and we can actually change this world for better if we all join together to do it.
I always think every day is a school day. And the more curious you are, the more curious you become. There's so much to learn, isn't there?
Yeah. I think the older you get, which I'm now quite old, the older you get, the more you realise you don't know.
I didn't read my first. I read books at school for O level, Shakespeare and goodness knows what. But I didn't actually read my first leisure book until I was about 25.
Wow.
Cover to cover.
Yeah.
I'm dyslexic, so
Okay.
yeah, and it took me, I think it was about 4 or 5 goes to pass my English language O level. I got there in the end. Anyway, Paul, great to see you. Have a lovely weekend and see you soon.
Yep. Thanks very much.